Welcome to The Business Behind Your Business, the podcast where we delve into the financial strategies and insights that drive success for small and medium-sized business owners. I'm your host, Paul Sweeney, and in each episode we bring you expert guests who share practical advice, real-world experiences, and actionable tips to empower you on your business journey. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting out, get ready to uncover the secrets to success and gain valuable insights into the business behind your business. Welcome back. Today, we're going to look at the topic of, it's a topic that you probably don't want to hear about, you think you don't need to know about, but you really do, particularly if you're interested in working with larger businesses and government departments. What are we talking about? We're talking about another acronym, ESG, Environmental, Social, Governance. And if you're a business owner, a small business owner, you've probably thought, I don't need to know about that. I've got no obligations here. But we're going to tell you why you need to be aware of it. You need to be compliant with it. And it's going to help you if you're looking to do business with big business and government departments. Our guest today, she's no stranger to the business behind your business. She's been with us before on a couple of years ago when we were talking about how small companies can work effectively with larger organisations. Working back to the business behind your business, we've got Bronwyn Reid, long-time champion of business, particularly small business. She's the author of several books. Very sought-after speaker, working with small companies, helping them navigate through those contractual arrangements with larger organisations and government departments. And currently, she's focused on our topic for today, ESG, environmental, social and governance, and its impact on small business. Given that Bronwyn's mission is to help small business owners understand how ESG can be a tool for resilience, reputation, and long-term success, we're not going to waste any time. Bronwyn, welcome back to the business behind your business.
Oh, what a delight it is to be back, Paul.
Absolutely. We loved having you on before, and it prompted a lot of discussion from business owners thinking that, actually it is feasible for me to do business with large organisations and also with government, but there are some tips and tricks involved in that and some steps they need to be aware of. But since we've had that conversation, this topic of ESG has really come more to the forefront. It's been in the news, it's been in social media. People are starting to expect it, but a lot of business owners are thinking, hey, I don't need to do anything about it just yet. I've got so many other things to worry about. What exactly are we talking about? Why is ESG not just an issue for big businesses?
That's a very big question. I would like to just take one step back for your listeners and talk about that acronym ESG, Environmental, Social, Governance. We know what environmental is. We know what social responsibility is. Governance is the way you run your business, the way you do the things you do. I always find it helps to explain it if you put an R at the end. So it's your environmental, social, and governance responsibilities, or your environmental, social, and governance reporting. It just seems to help people understand it a little bit more if you just keep that silent R in the back of your mind. ESG isn't new. We can touch on that a little bit later. But certainly, since we all went into a panic through COVID, the COVID era, it's made its way out of academia and the fringe press, and it is now mainstream. It is now a mainstream topic. There will be some in your audience who probably may not have heard of it, but I'd be pretty sure that most of your listeners have heard of ESG. And no, it's not something you can go and hide behind the counter and not worry about. It is here, and it's your concern. It's your concern because, number one, regulation is coming. There are laws already covering the largest end of our business spectrum, but most of us in our own way supply into those big companies. So if they've got to report, we're part of their reporting line. The other big point, and the reason this is so important, it's nothing to do with regulation. It's nothing to do with government. It's nothing to do with law. It's just good business. It is just good business.
So let's unpack that, talking about why is it good business, because a lot of business owners will think, if I don't have an obligation to do it, why will I do it? What's the incentive for me? Because I think a lot of us are thinking we've got so many balls in the air. It's another thing I need to think about. What's the reason? What's in it for me for why I should embrace this new topic?
Right. So let's start with environmental. That's the easiest one to get our heads around. Hopefully, we've all figured out now that throwing our rubbish and our plastic bottles on the lawn is not a good thing to do. So that one's fairly easy to get our heads around. I presented at a conference in Singapore to what they call the mass sports industry, where the Boston Marathon, the Sydney City to Surf, that sort of thing. And that industry as a whole worldwide was starting to take account of all those plastic bags that the T-shirts come in, all the plastic drink containers that get handed out to everybody. So that's an entire industry taking account of its footprint and therefore cost. They are, in fact, lowering their costs by taking this into account. Obviously, if we're switching to solar power or to renewables, we're taking costs out of our businesses. That's all fairly easy to think about and process. Social. This is what consumers are looking for now, particularly those millennials, those troublesome millennials, and those Gen Xs and Gen Zs. They are looking for more than just product. They will take a job, they will change who they buy from according to that company's set of values, their environmental impact, are they using slave labour, etc., etc. That is how they are making their purchasing decisions. So if you want customers and if you want those people, the best and the brightest of those generations to come and work for you, that's what they're going to do. That's what they're going to be looking at. And they will take a pay cut to not work for a company that doesn't accord with their principles and their values. So if you want staff, if you want customers, we'll go on to money. Probably not so much for us at the smaller end of town, but certainly when you get into the medium of the small, medium enterprises, start talking about raising money, venture capital, that sort of stuff, they will be looking at your ESG performance, 100%. There have been numerous studies over the last certainly 20 years that show that businesses with good ESG performance, or there's several other acronyms that get used, outperform other businesses financially. Return on investment, PE ratios, all of those lovely financial measures that we're looking at. So that's the short version of why we need to be looking at this, and it is just good for business.
Yeah, I think we tend to focus as a business owner, we're focusing on those financial reporting goals, but we've had a number of discussions recently. So we recently had Georgie and Tothan talking about this whole idea of work that's worth it, purpose in work. And she particularly highlighted that Gen Z were looking to align with companies, align with employers that had a purpose beyond just the profit. Now, it's quite a divisive statement because we've had some interesting discussion that's come out of that episode where a lot of, I guess, over 50-year-old employers are, I guess, resisting the desire to hire Gen Z, thinking that they are lazy and unproductive and not motivated, but we're not understanding the motivation. So that helps address that, and perhaps you're attracting the wrong Gen Zs because you don't have a purpose that aligns with them. And we've also had that, just trying to recall the episode, but we was discussing about the impact of the Modern Slavery Act and your obligations to be aware of where your suppliers are sourcing their product from and what kind of processes and policies they have. So it's I think we're not in a isolated situation anymore. We're being very aware that the world's become more global, which means that we've got a lot more influence on our activities that we may not actually be aware of. So we need to go into that a lot more detail. And I think one of the issues, I guess one of the forces holding back small, medium business owners about embracing ESG and is that conversation with their accountant. And they say, do I need to do anything about this ESG reporting stuff? And the accountant's thinking, no, that's more work for me. I'm not going to, no, you don't need to worry about that. You've got no obligations. So don't do it. And in fact, I was actually asked that question recently. Do you have any clients that need to report on that? And immediately I went, no, nobody's got any obligations. But then I was thinking, I've got clients that want to contract with government. I've got clients looking for contracts with larger organisations. And it's not just the quality control. You've actually got to demonstrate, as you've just mentioned, and we'll delve into it more, that compliance with that ESG framework, why it's essential if you want to do business with those organisations.
And don't think it's going away. It's not going away. You mentioned modern slavery. My co-author this time is a man called Dr. Stephen Morse, and his background, his specialty and his consultancy is modern slavery, the Modern Slavery Act. And we think that here in Australia, well, we haven't got any of that going on in Australia. As you rightly pointed out, we've got to be concerned about our own supply chains, and it actually is a thing in Australia. Unfortunately, it's not. It does happen. So that's another whole section. But yeah, we do have my co-author is an expert in the modern slavery regulation and auditing, etc. You also mentioned financial reporting. Now, those clever Italians, they figured out that old double entry bookkeeping stuff, 500 years ago, whatever, how many years ago. So we've got pretty good at that. We know how to do it. We understand it. And there's lots of laws around it. So if that's all we concentrate on, and if that's all we report on, it's no wonder that that's all we talk about. So for those companies that you mentioned who don't have an obligation as yet to do ESG reporting, if they don't do any reporting on that or measuring on that, don't be surprised that the conversation stays with financial measurements. We need to be a little bit proactive about showing what we're doing. And as you rightly pointed out, and your other guest rightly pointed out, that's what people are looking for. And there was so much research during COVID. We've come off the end of that, but people were really looking at that stuff during COVID. And that, to me, was the spark that brought this whole discussion out of the academic journals and the fringe press. So we need to change our conversation and stop just talking about balance sheets and profit and losses.
Yeah, and I think when we limit that to the balance sheet, profit and loss, we're limiting a lot of other things. We're limiting, because very much your profit and loss and balance sheet are the snapshot of your business at a particular point in time. It's a measurement of your performance over a specific time period. But what is missing from those financial statements are a lot of the other indicators of how healthy your business is, in terms of like, what's your sales growth like? Where are your customers coming from? How loyal are your customers to you? What's going to stop them from buying from your competitor who they align with better? We've had conversations about understanding your customers' values in order to sell more, which is also raised a bit the ire of a few of our commentators. But it's the idea that if you understand your customers' values and your business is aligned to their expectations in terms of environmental, social, governance criteria, they're going to buy from you as opposed to your competitor who's not in alignment. So it's a strategic advantage, really, to start thinking about it and be one of the first in your industry to actually adopt it and use it.
There's a little hitch there. It's not really a hitch, that when we are supplying to the biggest end of town, yes, having those credentials and reporting on those credentials is very important. Now, when I first started out doing this and talking about it and writing my first book back in 2017, I would rail against the big end of town that they were just ticking boxes. They didn't really care about the environment or the social or the governance or the modern slavery. They were just ticking boxes. But then I finally came to accept that, okay, if that's the way it is at the moment, I'll take the win. If they are taking care or taking notice of my ESG performance, that's a win, even if they haven't quite got their motives sorted out correctly yet. So it took me a while to get to that point, actually, Paul. But now, probably 10 years down the track, a lot of those companies are now figuring out that we can't just go with the box ticking exercise anymore. We've got to do something actually real here.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of criticism from consumers about policies or promotions by those larger companies that are seen to be wasteful or damaging to the environment, that they're ignoring issues. So they're under the microscope a lot more from their customer, which means that if I'm supplying to those larger businesses, I have to come to the party as well. So we've talked in the past. So last time you were on, we were talking about what small companies need to do to be able to do business with larger companies and also government. Is this something that we must get in place in order to move forward?
Yeah. As a small supplier to a large company, the last thing you want to be is the one that doesn't get the supply on time every time with quality. That's one of the biggest risks that big companies cite with us. But now we also can't afford to be the one that blots their ESG copybook. Several years ago, you remember when Nike was caught, in effect, using slave labour to manufacture its products. More recently, Qantas, with their offering to sell flights that weren't going to fly, they had already been cancelled, and then arguing the toss about whether you could get your money back. That created, talk about destroy a valuable brand. Consumers react very badly to that stuff now. They just don't like it. And they will take their wallets with them and their credit cards and walk away.
So we've seen some instances of big businesses that have got this really wrong and the impact it's had. And we've introduced why it's so essential for your business to adopt this. What are some of the practical steps that we can take as business owners to move forward with ESG?
First thing I would say to any small business, and it takes up the theme that you addressed right at the beginning of our chat today, that so many SME owners think, oh, just another thing I've got to do. I've got so much to do. And I get that. That's why our prescription, Dr. Mawson, my prescription in the book, start small. Just do little things. Little things. For instance, in our environmental company, we have taken a step of we pay a company to recycle some of the things that we use in our business that we can't recycle using the normal council recycling bin. It's a small thing that we've decided to do. It just involves getting the staff involved and putting things in the right bins. Yes, it costs us $500, but it's a tiny, tiny little thing that we can do. And do we put that in all our tenders and our presentations? Heck yeah. Just a tiny little thing to demonstrate that we're really pitching up. Here's another thing that we've done. I was given this idea by one of my business mentors. We created our own culture book for our company. Our culture book, we've put a lot of thought into it. I mean, most companies will have a vision statement and a mission statement and a whatever that they do one day and then it never ever gets pulled out of the shelf again. Our culture document is a living, breathing document. It is everywhere in the office. And it describes what our values are, what our purpose is, and how we work together, both as a team and also with our clients every single day. We view a cultural infringement in our company the same as a safety or an operational infringement. It's not hard. Took a bit of thought, but, that's okay. Thinking's good. So that's another small thing that people can do. Adopting the social thing. Most SME owners actually already do this. How many SME owners do you know who are volunteer as a ref at the under-7 rugby on a Saturday, or wash the uniforms for the junior netball, or all of those sorts of things? That's your social engagement. You're already doing it. Governance, again, for a lot of us, if you're a carpenter, you have to have a carpenter's license, and you have to do work and build things that don't fall down. So you're already doing it. So that's my plea, is to not look at this stuff as, another thing I have to do. You're probably doing a lot of it anyway.
Just capturing some of those things we're already doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is capturing some of those things that we're already doing and doing them intentionally. So you might never have thought that you were, by serving at the tuck shop at school, was part of your social and governance offering, but it is. So let's capture that intentionally. Our company does. Our company will. So don't get all scared.
So I think what you've just described is that we've made this into a bigger, monster than it actually is. It's not really something beyond our scope or beyond what we're capable of doing. It's really about identifying what we're already doing and documenting that, but then I think challenging ourselves to go to the next step. So what's that next step? So incrementally, what else can we be doing in this area to actually comply? Or what else can we be doing in here to provide more value to our community by, as you mentioned, volunteering? And what's the impact of that? And often what we find is that the organisations that are involved in community, well, when people look to consume, they're the ones they think of compared to the people who aren't involved in community. So there are some, it's hard to quantify the benefits, but there's a lot of intrinsic feel-good when you put these in place, that you're actually meeting those objectives. And when we think about it, we're not actually having to do that much more than what we are at the moment. It's just maybe looking at it a different angle.
Looking at it a different way, doing it intentionally. And I mentioned before about we're very certain on our financial measures. We know exactly what it is. We've had 500 years to figure it out. And we've got standards. So if you produce a balance sheet in Australia, it's going to be sort of comparable to any other country. We're still getting to that point with ESG reporting. ESG came to indicate initially financial reporting. We talked about ESG investing, and that is massive. I talked a little bit about attracting finance. Raising money now is not easy if you're not ticking your ESG boxes. And we've seen that here in Australia with coal mines and various banks saying, well, we're not going to lend you any money to build another gas plant or build another coal mine. I'm not buying into that argument. I'm saying that's the reality, that you can't get that money if you're not being socially and environmentally responsible. There is a worldwide movement at the moment and there are several accountants that I know who are moving very much in that direction. There's various standards out there in the market at the moment. There's European and there's this and that and everything else. We just haven't quite got it sorted yet, but we will. We definitely will. We just have to chill a bit and do the best we can in the meantime.
Yeah. So you mentioned that ESG is not just a reporting tool. It's a roadmap for building a business that lasts. Now, I'm hopeful, and I'm pretty certain I know the answer here, but the book will provide some practical steps and help for a business owner to actually implement an ESG strategy.
Yes, it does. And it also harks back to my second book, because a large part of being environmentally, socially, and governance responsibility is risk management. And that was my second book. So thinking proactively, being intentional about these things is very much a part of risk management. Because if you think of the majority of small business owners, if their business goes belly up, who's affected? The business owner, their spouse, their family. If they've got a business partner, it's the business partner, their spouse, their family. It's all the employees, it's the suppliers that depend on you. Doing some good and, dare I say it, basic risk management is very much a part of your governance responsibilities. Now, we don't have ESG risks, we just have risks. That's another thing I've heard several times. Oh, no, we've got to do more risk analysis for our ESG risk. No, they're all risks. They're just risks.
Yeah, look, I'm going back to a conversation we had before we hit record, and we were talking about the two different styles of business. We were talking about the style of business that just waits for the government to come and help them and make sure things work well for them, and they're struggling. But we also looked at the businesses that look for opportunities and are advancing. Would you describe ESG as an opportunity for businesses to improve and grow?
100%. 100%. Don't look for the problems, look for the opportunities. Don't bring the problems to me, bring the opportunities to me. We just mentioned about all those millennials and Gen Zs running around saying, oh, we want to buy ethical products. So you've got two choices. Go away, I don't want to sell to you because you don't accord with me, or heck yeah, I'll manufacture what you want and I'll sell it to you. That it is the sensible thing. We haven't got on to the history of ESG. ESG is not something new that we've thought up in the last 10 minutes or since COVID. In the book, we trace ESG back to the early 1600s. And there is an argument that it actually goes back to the Romans. So this is not something new. So businesses looking now, we're watching what's happening in the United States and the demise of what they call DEI, the rolling back of environmental regulations. And it looks pretty scary. It looks pretty scary. But if we look at the big long timeline, it's another phase in ESG comes in and out of vogue under various disguises using various acronyms as we go through history. To me, I was very distressed when we first started seeing what's happening in the United States, environmental regulations rolling back, etc. But then when I sat down and thought about it, and then when we actually started writing the book and looking at the history, I'm not so despondent. This too will pass.
I think the other way to look at it is if we're only responding because the regulation tells us we have to, then that's a worry in one way. But if it's something that's important to us, and a lot of what we've talked about, it's very central to all of us. We just don't, I guess, implement it in any structured or intentional format. But if that's who we are, then we don't need regulations for us to actually proceed forward and decide we're going to be a company that does have an ESG responsibility, and we're going to demonstrate that.
Well, in that timeline that I was just talking about, there's a big point in the early 1970s, Milton Friedman. The purpose of a corporation is to make a profit for shareholders. And I know there's arguments backwards and forwards, but Milton Friedman took hold of the conversation in the early 1970s, and it's only recently that business is starting to sort of wean themselves off of the Milton Friedman doctrine. I do go into this in the book. There's a pulling us back, or some people pulling some businesses back to that. I'm just here to make a profit. I'm not here to do anything else. I'm not here to look after anybody else, and I'm certainly not here to look after the planet. That's that sector of business, which are the people that you and I don't deal with.
Yeah, we have a common purpose. We want to deal with people who are passionate with a purpose, and the ones that are looking for opportunities here.
But we do our best to convince the others
absolutely
that having a purpose, a positive purpose, and being socially responsible, being environmentally responsible, and just generally having some ethics and doing the right thing is a great opportunity. It still just astounds me how a company like Qantas, I just can't imagine the conversation in the boardroom. Hey, I know what we'll do. We'll cancel flights and then we'll sell tickets on them. How? Why? Commonwealth Bank is another one where they, and this was when we really were in the height of every single news bulletin, we were being told how, we were in a cost of living crisis. And Commonwealth Bank introduced fees on some accounts that had been free earlier for low-income earners. I don't remember the exact details, so don't sue me. Again, I sit there thinking, why? Why? What is it that prompted you to make this daft decision?
Yes. Yeah, well, I think we often question why some of those decisions are made, and I think it's really by looking only at a very small snapshot, a small window of information, and ignoring the big picture. And I think we get very limited in that. But I think there's a lot of practical ways we can get involved with this, that we can actually move forward, and we can not be the Commonwealth Bank and the Qantas and the Nike, but we can be something exceptional. You've given us some great framework to start with. I think, if you're like me, you're looking at, well, what's my next step? How am I going to move forward with this? The good news is Bronwyn's got the book with the guidance to help us delve into more detail. So where do we get a copy of the book?
Certainly be available from my website, which is bronwynreid.com.au, and from Dr. Stephen Morse's website, which is Unchained Solutions.
Great. And look, we'll put links in the show notes where you can access the book and where you can buy it, and also where you can find out more about engaging with Bronwyn, who has a wealth of experience in helping small business owners, medium business owners do business with large business and corporates, and help you get on the right path there. Bronwyn, if there was one thing you wanted to leave our listeners with today, what would that be?
It's just good business. It's just good business. But I do need to mention one thing that's very special that's happening in my life. I have been given the opportunity to go to the Arctic, to join a trip into the Arctic Circle and talk to the people about exactly what we're talking about today, the intersection between economic viability and people and planet. It's possibly the most exciting thing that's ever happened to me in my life.
Absolutely. A very exciting thing, but there because of all the exciting work and valuable work you've been doing, helping business owners and more over many, many years. So great reward for you. Very exciting. Very pleased for you. But thank you again for sharing such great insights into a topic that, as we mentioned at the beginning, most business owners don't think it applies to them, don't think they need to do anything. The truth is you're doing it already. In some ways, just make it more intentional. And it does apply to you because it is about it makes good business sense, and that's a good driver as well. So Bronwyn, thank you again for coming back and sharing with us again on the Business Behind Your Business podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you for your valuable insights.
Thank you very much. I look forward to coming back again.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's a wrap for this episode of The Business Behind Your Business. We hope you found today's discussion insightful and valuable for your business journey. Before we go, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favourite platform. Share it with fellow business owners who could benefit, and send in your burning questions because we love hearing from you. Missed any of our previous episodes or looking for additional resources to help grow your business? Head over to our website at thebusinessbehindyourbusiness.com. There you'll find our full archive of past episodes, along with show notes, transcripts, and links to valuable resources mentioned in each episode. Your journey to business success continues at thebusinessbehindyourbusiness.com. Until next time, stay inspired, stay informed, and keep building the business of your dreams.